Hello and welcome back. It's puzzle time with Sudoku Sleuth, and today we're playing Dutch flatmates Zippers. And normally when I sort of feature any zipper puzzles, what I tend to focus on is the fact that, it almost sounds like it's about zips, and that's always the way that I've seen the lines themselves. But given we're talking about Dutch flatmates and zippers, that was a bit of a struggle. So what I've gone for is instead fast cars, a fast Dutch car, which is the Donkerford, which is, you can see Sleuth here driving it so quick down the highway that everything's a blur behind him. I mean, I say Sleuth, I don't actually see Sleuth. I mean, he's made the mistake of jumping in, obviously as anyone would in the UK, on the right hand side to drive the car, but I can see the steering wheel is on the left hand side for any European car. Who knows who's actually driving here today? Let's take a look at today's puzzle and the rule set that we have in store for today. So, Dutch Flatmates, Zippers by Flinty. We haven't actually done some of these Dutch Flatmate variant puzzles for quite some time. I mean, thank you for voting, by the way, on the community post to say we should continue regardless of how difficult they are. So this is a 2-star difficulty rated puzzle, and the rules are pretty straightforward if you've played. Let me have a look for convenience senses. Yeah, it's really only 2 variants today. So normal Sudoku rules apply. That means place the digits 1 to 9 once each in every row, in every column, and in every 3x3 box. Then we have the Dutch flatmate rule. So 5s live in Dutch flats. So all 5s in the grid must strictly have either a 1 directly above it and / or a 9 directly below it. Now it can have both, but it doesn't need both. So for example, if this was a 5, I could have either a 1 above it, or a 9 beneath it, or both. What I can't have is neither. So that can't be 2 and that being 8. That breaks the Dutch flat rule set. Every 5 in this grid, and of course it will be 9 of them, has to be accompanied by either a 1 above it or a 9 beneath it, or both. Then we have the zipper line, and this is why I always think of them as zips. So pairs of digits an equal distance from the center of a zipper line sum to the same total. Now for odd length lines, the total is the digit placed in the line's central digit, and the digits may repeat on a zipper line. So something that actually I quite like how Flinty did it. Odd length zipper lines, such as this one, he clearly marked out the center with a circle, and therefore we know that the sum has to be one of the 1 to 9 digits, as in, because it's essentially part of the grid, so it has to be one of the normal Sudoku digits. However, we also have diamonds, and they're on even length zipper lines, and therefore the sum can actually be a digit that is not 1 to 9. Now, I'm pretty sure it's not going to be 0, but it can actually be a double-digit number. Now, the way to think about zipper lines is almost, what would be a good way, like a zip. So if this was a 5, you have to think of it almost that every cell, that are equal distance away from the 5 must sum up to 5. So think of it as if you're zipping this up, and as you bring all of these pairs together, they need to sum up to the same number. So that could be 2, 3, for example, that could be 1, 4, and that would be a totally valid way of actually numbering, well, pencil marking, this zipper line. Like I said, with the challenge though in here is that it can actually be quite a large digit. I could have something like 9 and 2, for example. The center could be 11, and it doesn't matter as long as everything else that I have on here is adding up to 11 in terms of pairs. That will work out just fine. So, if you want to play this puzzle, if you want to zip along down the highway on a, I even forgot the name of the Donkerford G8, I think is the model that's there, that's the quickest. Link will be in the description down below as usual for you to play along. And with that said, I'm going to restart the clock and see how I get on. So, I think the place to start is in box 1. This has to be a 9. Essentially, this zipper line is saying that all of the digits 1 to 9 you can sum them up into pairs that add up to this value. The challenge, of course, is if I try and put, let's say, even if I go with the minimum, 1 and 9, that means I have to place a 10 in here. That's clearly not going to work. Now, there's a couple of tricks when it comes to Dutch flats. That immediately tells me this has to be the 5. And if you think about it, if I try and place a 5 anywhere else on this row, in row 1, because I can't place a 1 above it, it's already at the edge of the grid, 1 above it doesn't work and it doesn't loop around, I always have to place a 9 beneath it. And obviously, if I place the 5 anywhere else in this row and I repeat the 9, I've broken the puzzle. So that has to be a 5. That means that this is the equal distant partner. This has to be a 4 to make sure that these pairs add up to 9. So we're off to a good start. They are something that's useful about zipper line is to always think about how many unique pairs do you need. So I need 3 unique pairs. So if I try and place a 6 in here, I'm going to struggle because I could do 1 and 5, for example, 5, 1, and a 2, 4, for example. I could do 4 here and 2 there. What am I going to put in here to make it add up to 6? And yeah, we're done. So long way of saying that this has to be a number that has at least 3 pairs, and it's not a 9. So this is 7 or 8, which also means because it's not a 9, and the fact that it's actually got a total that's a single digit. 9 is none of these cells. This also has a 9 that's a single digit, so I couldn't put a 9 in here, because again, if I pair it up with a 1, I'd put a 10 in the middle. So this is the only place for a 9. If this is 7, this would be 8. If this is 8, this would be 4. And I think that sort of the trick to think about when it comes to 8s is if I put an 8 in here, it doesn't matter where I put the 4 anywhere else on this. I would need to pair it up with a 4, and obviously that would break the Sudoku rule set. So that's something that's quite useful to also pay attention to is whenever you end up with an even number, obviously its half can't be anywhere on the zip line, and it has to be somewhere else. And I couldn't put a 4 in here and a 9 in here, and I clearly can't put a 4 there. That's got to be 8. That's got to be 7. 8 means this has to be 9. This would have to be 1 to make sure that they add up to 9. And then I'm just thinking about the rest, actually. So maybe time to think about 5s for a second. Wherever I put a 5 in this box, I need a 1 above it. Because the 9 is not available, and it's in the top row, so I can't really put a 5 kind of anywhere above that 9. So no 5s, no 5s, can't put a 5 in here, can't put a 5 in there. 5 is in one of 2 cells, and the 1 is above it immediately. If that's a 5, that would be a 2, that would be a 1, that would be a 6. That looks good to me. If that's a 5, that would be 1, that would be 6, that would be 2. Kind of both work. So I'm not sure I can force it just yet. Maybe if I think about box 3 for a moment, it will help. Sorry, I should think out loud for a moment. Essentially where I'm going with this is the 7 needs a partner, that's a 2 in here. And I'm just wondering if these restrictions... Actually, here's something that's much better. 1 and 8 has to appear somewhere in this zipper line, and it's not here. Now the challenge is if either of these are 1 or 8, because they're the partners that add up to 9, then one of these would have to be 1 or 8. So a long way of saying that 1 and 8 in box 1 can only be in here. That's not a 1, therefore that's not a 5. That's the 1, that's the 5, that's a 2, that's a 6. And these are 3, 4, that 4 tells me an order, that's 4, that's 3. And it's coming together pretty well. So we have 2, 7, and 3, 6. The 3, 6. Have I just broken this puzzle? Feels like I have. 3 and 4, 6 and 1, 2 and 5. I think the logic is solid, but I can't put 3 and 6 anywhere on here without having the same issue with the 1 and 8. So where did my logic go wrong? Yes, that's where my logic went wrong. There is nothing wrong with this being a 5 and that being a 9 under it. So I agree this is not a 1. And because this can't be a 9 under it, nor a 1, that means this is not a 5 for sure. But this could have been a 5 with a 9 beneath it. Dear oh dear, Sleuth. Has been a while since I've broken a puzzle, and I'm kind of lucky that it happened very early. And based on the fact that we now know, I mean, I really shouldn't be using this, and I should be proving the next step somehow. So I am going to try and do this the long way around, even though I know this is not a 5 and this is not a 1. Well, I don't know if that's not a 1. I know that's not a 5, though. And I know that this is the 5. How do I go about proving this? So here is something. 1 is not here. 1 is not there. This is, well, one of these is a 1, meaning one of these is a 6. And because the 6 is not here, that means 6 is definitely up there with a definite 3 down here. The 6 goes with the 1. Now, if this is a 5, that would be 2. If that's a 5, yeah, it still feels like a bit of a leap. 3 and 4 are not here. So it's the same logic. Because 3 and 4 are not there, 3 and 4 cannot be up here because otherwise it would have to repeat with its partner. So that forces this to be a 3-4 pair. We use the same logic with the 1-8 here earlier. So that is 3-4. That removes the 5 that was here. That is the 5. That's the 2. That's the 1. That's the 6. That is the correct way to play this. That means that this is a 2-3 pair, and this is a 6-7 pair in some order. We can't deduce that just yet. We know this digit is not an 8, a 7. We know that these are 2, 5, and 6. We know that this is 3, 4, or 8. Excellent. Haven't really thought that much. I mean, I didn't have reason to, but I haven't really thought too much about what is going on here. So remember, this can be a 2-digit sum, a 2-digit number. So 7 with 5 and 6, all of it works. But we do have some restrictions about how many different pairs it can create. In particular, the fact that there is 4 of them, and some of them see this cell as well, makes me wonder if 13 even is possible. So if it is 13, that would be 7, 6. That would be, I wouldn't be able to use a 3, and I need a 3 on here. So it has to be less than 13 to be able to use the 3. So it's not a 6. So my options are 9. If I look at these, that kind of works. So 7 and 2 works. 3, 4, 8 with whatever's going on here. Pretty sure works. I can make 1, I can make 5, I can make 5, I can make 6. So my options, if this is 7, 2, is this would be 6, 5, 1. That wouldn't be a 1 regardless, so may as well take it off the table for the moment. And if this is a 12, as in 7 and 5, so I would have 4 and 8 and 9. And this is like a ridiculous amount of pencil marking at the moment. And I'm going to say they don't seem to share digits. 3, 4, 8, if I'm trying to add up to 9, it's 6, 5, and 1. And 3, 4, 8, if they're trying to add up to 12, well, it's 4, 8 again, and 9. And these three do not share any digits, so I can't even use that usefully. This 5 needs a 9 beneath it. We kind of discussed that before. That removes the 9 option. And the 9 option, was there even a 9 option? Yeah, there was. Without a 9, I can't make the 3 add up to 12. So this is indeed adding up to 9. And therefore this is 6, 5, and 1. That's not a 1, therefore that's not an 8. The rest looks good. This is not a 1-8 pair, or a 4-5 pair, or a 3-6 pair. It is in fact forced to be 2-7. That can't be a 5, because the 9 is above it, and therefore no 1 above it, no 9 beneath it, no 5, no 4. 5 here works, 5 there with a 9 beneath it works. So the rest is fine. Rest of this line, let's think it's 3, 4, and 8. That's not a 4. I'm not making huge strides in this puzzle, am I? Let's think about what these two are. I mean, it's not 1-8, because it can see, both of them see this cell, so it's none of these, and it's not 2-7. So my options are 6, 3, and 4, 5. 6 can only be in one end, and then 4, 5 seem to be unrestricted. That's not true. The 5, because I can't have a 1 above it, nor a 9 beneath it. I've already placed a 9 in box 5. Neither of these are 5, and therefore neither of these are 4, and this is forced. This is 6, this is 3, which gives me 4, gives me 3. The 5 now is one of 2 cells, which means, there you go, because neither of them is a 1, it needs a 9 beneath it, and that 9 tells me it can't be a 9. So that's a 5, that's a 9, 9, not 8. These are 1, 4, and 8. That's not a 4. I'm pretty sure it's not a 1. I can't come up with anything that will add up to a 1. So that's an 8. That's a 1, 4 pair. We know that the 5... Ooh, I've made a mistake. Again. What's going on? You see, it's kind of the deduction I'm making in here is I can't place a 5, any, just 5s, classic Sudoku, no 5s. Oh, hang on. I don't have to place a 5 in here. In fact, the 5 could be in one of these 2 cells with a 1 above it. So that actually works. Panic over. I feel like this can't be the 1 on this zipper line. And I'm just trying to think of why. You see, what it means is there is a 9 pairing up with something that's not a 1. Let's say it's a 2, although in this case it would be 5. If that's a 1, that would have to be the 5. and this is 1, 2 apart, 1, 2 apart. So we're saying the total is 14, and then the 1 has to add up with 13. So that doesn't work. That's a 1, that's a 5. We're pursuing a sum of 10, which is quite interesting. With a 5 here, that means that's got to be a 5 to sum up to 10. Then we need 2 cells. In fact, this is 2 or 7, so we know it's quite restricted. The 2 would have to sum up with an 8, which is available. The 7 would have to sum up with a 3, which is also still available. But there is a 10 summation going on here. Interesting. We have 3, 8, and 6, I'm going to say, just to complete the rest of this column. We have a second 2, 7 with a 4. We're trying to get to 8. We have 1 and 4 in here. Whichever one is the 4 requires a partner of 4. So you can see that if that's a 4, that would be a second 4 in the same row. That doesn't work. That's a 4, that's a 1, that's a 4, that's a 7. And that helps us complete this. And that 7 gives me a 6, a 7. The 6 needs a partner of 3, a 2. The 1 and 8 are not resolved yet. That's not a 3. That's not a 4. That's a 3-8 pair. That's the 4. 5s, you can see, are now one of 2 cells. If it's a 5 in here, that can be a 1, and that can be a 9. So no real restrictions on here. That's not a 5. In fact, Sudoku just allowed me to place it. And with that 5 in here, there's not a 1, that's a 9. And then these 2 are from 1, 2, and 6. Well, the 6 is none of these cells. The 2 is clearly not here. That's a 2, that's a 1. That gives me 8. That gives me 1. That gives me 3. That gives me 8. We're making progress. These are 1, 3, and 7. You can see that's not a 1. We know what this digit is, so we may as well place it. This is a 9, I'm going to say. And I needed that, of course, for this 5, given that's not a 1. And these cells are from 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 8. So we're talking about fairly sizable sums here. Now, what can I do? I think 14 feels out of the question. 14 can only be summed up in 2 ways. 5, 9, which is not available, and 6, 8, which obviously wouldn't be available if I've used it already here. So what would I do with the rest of this zipper line? So it's not 6, 8. Now, it's also not 2, 6, because I already have a 9, and a sum of 8 means I need a -1 in here, and that's not allowed. So once again, we're adding up to 10. And that gives me a 1 here. That's not a 1. This is a 3, 7 pair, 2, 8 pair. Everything is adding up to 10. That looks good. Is that helping me here? No. There, also no. Okay, let's just keep going. What is the rest of this row? It is 2, 3, 4 by the looks of things. And then in here it's 7, 8, 9 by the looks of things. That's not 7. That's not 9, and that's not 2. We have something in here that is not a 9, not a 6. And it's got, the thing is, I'm pretty sure I can even make a 5 work. 3, 4, that would be 1 or 2. Yeah, so this can actually be quite a low number. Can it be a 5? No. And it's because of the Dutch flatmates. If that's a 5, I don't have a 1 above it. That would need to be a 9. And now the zipper line is saying that 9 plus something is equal to 5. That's nonsense. So it's not 4, 5, or 6. This is 7 or 8. There's now a virtual 7, 8 between these, like a pair. Because we know this is not a 7, 8 aside from the fact that this cell, and we know this is not 2, 3, so there is either a 7 or an 8 in here, and that would be the second. Then we have another 2, 3, and a 5. So 5 is in one of these two cells. Neither of them is a 1. It would need a 9 beneath it. It can't be this 9 for a couple of reasons. One is 9 plus something doesn't equal 7, 8. But obviously just Sudoku. So that's not a 9. That's a 5. That is a 9. That's not my 5. That's a 5. It's got a 1 above it. So that doesn't mean that this is a 9. This is 8, 7, 9. This 5 would have to add up with 2 or 3 to get to 7 or 8. That 9 doesn't seem to help. We've done all the 5s, I'm going to say. And they're all happy flatmates. We haven't got a 5 up here. That's a 5 just above the 9 anyway, so no biggie. It's not a 2 either. It's a 6. It's not giving me anything down here. This 8 gives me a 3, 4 pair. That means this is 1 or 6, just completing column 9. We've got a 2, 3, 4 triplet. This is 7 or 8. Just again completing this. This 3, 4 to get to 7 or 8. Right. That's the answer. If this is an 8. No, I mean, I was thinking I can't do 3, 5. I can surprisingly do a double 4. So my options are 4, as in 3, 4 to get to 7. 4, 3 to get to 7. And then obviously, I'm going to say obviously that's it. If that's an 8, it's forced as a double 4. So we actually still have another 3, 4 in here. Sorry, I'm just kind of trying to take it all in for a second. This is the 2, 3, because remember we had a 7, 8 pair. Now we have a 2, 3 pair. Now we have a triplet, 2, 3, 4. That's an 8. That gives me a 1 down here. That 5 gave me a 4 ages ago that I ignored. That 3 gives me a 6, which gives me a 4, which gives me a 1. That 4 with 3 or 4 still works. That 4 up there, there's no 4s. This is a 2, 3 pair. That is a 4. That's an 8 now, sum. That's an 8. Therefore, this is a 3 to go with a 5, 2, 3, 2, 7. And I think we've got it from here. That's a 7. That's a 3. There's no 4 in here, so that's the 4. This is not a 3. This is a 7. This is a 3. That 7 bounces back, gives me a 2, gives me an 8, gives me a 2, gives me a 6. This is an 8, and if I've not made, well, hang on, no, 2 and 7, and if I've not made any more mistakes, that's a 6 for the finish. It's a lovely puzzle. Really sorry about sort of breaking it earlier. I kind of made an assumption there that wasn't quite right, and the thing is, it wasn't that hard to actually make the right deductions around, you know, seeing that the 3, 4 here meant that they had to be next to the 7, and then that forced everything else. But as long as you're sort of fairly systematic with this puzzle, that was a 23-minute solve, including one break, that you guys get to see in the video. So, hope that you enjoyed the puzzle video, maybe. And there are a few other Dutch flat-made puzzles that we featured, so take a look at the playlist that do take a look at the playlist that YouTube will recommend to you now. Bye-bye for now.